and kapow! We can actually go through this, see the pictures of the cards, and talk about it as if you were looking at like a spoiler site, which is super helpful rather than just reading a list. So what I have done is gone through 1 by 1, or in some cases 2 by 2, and imported all of the cards from my sealed pool. I'm going to go through kind of the list, show what I ruled out right away, and show some of the colors that I thought might be possibilities. You can see over here on the left I've got 3 pre-built decks, black, blue, black, green, and black, white, that I'll go through some of the options, why I like certain builds over the others. I'll then talk about what my final build was, what my record was, and how I might even go about and improve it since then. So hopefully this is valuable as Origins comes out and you start to evaluate, do some sealed decks, do some drafts, and maybe see kind of what worked well for me and at least 1 or 2 different styles of decks. Alright, so at the pre-release I chose the Black Seed. One of the things I really liked that they did was you get 6 full booster packs this time and about 6 cards that were in your color. So I chose black. My foil promo was the Dark Petition, which I was kind of excited to play with. And so the first thing I did was go through my black pool. Since I had 6 extra cards in there, I wanted to see if I had enough cards in my black pool to consider it kind of my main color or one of my playable colors.
Just if I can interrupt, I think that 6 is like the perfect decision point there. Is that if it was more than 6, you'd feel pretty married to your color.
Yep.
Whereas 6 gives you a direction, and I think it really helps out newer players because they can be not too far wrong by just going with whatever it is. But more seasoned players don't have to stick with what they...
Yeah, that's right. You open it and you say, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell that. Whereas some of the other seeded boosters in previous pre-releases, you were kind of like, you had so many cards of 1 or 2 colors that you just didn't even have enough of the other colors to go any other direction, even if you didn't open anything good. So I really liked this particular way of doing it.
So good job, Wizards.
So that was my foil. I'm going to go through some of the cards that I want to highlight and talk about what drew me. Black was obviously one of my colors. You saw my 3 pre-builds all were based around black. Cruel Revival is basically a straight removal spell at instant speed for 5 mana, which is somewhat overcosted. It does not get zombies, which is a very small subset of the set. But the other cool thing is it does return a zombie from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have some synergies with some zombies, which I do have, I'll show you a few of those. And so this was a card that I played. Deadbridge Shaman was very good for me. 3 mana, 3/1. When your opponent when it dies, your opponent discards a card. It was always a 2-for-1 for me. I was excited. I had 2 copies. Excited to play with it. Fetid Imp I like. It can get in for a couple points of damage on turn 2, and then eventually trades for whatever their best creature is by paying a black mana and giving it Death Touch. Fleshbag Marauder, mediocre, but is a zombie and has synergy with that Cruel Revival, so it was a card I considered. Graveblade Marauder is a pretty cool card, very defensive, very hard to attack into, and when you can eventually start attacking with it, his ability to deal damage equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard came up a couple times and was very good. So another card I definitely was interested in playing. I'm going to go through most of the cards that I played, and then I'll talk. Infinite Obliteration is unplayable. I think this is good in a aggressive deck. I don't think my deck ended up being aggressive enough, so I never played this card. I do think if you can play it on like a 3/3 or something and just get in once and then draw a card when it dies, it's probably good enough, but I did not play it. I had 4 copies of Read the Bones. That's a lot of Read the Bones. I ended up playing 2 of them in the deck I built, and you'll see in all the pre-builds I have 2. I think 2 is the right number. I think playing 3 you draw 2 in your opener, and even though they're drawing you into things, they're putting you a turn behind while your opponent's playing creatures. So I liked 2 in my builds. Reeve's Soul was fantastic. There are a ton of creatures. I don't have the exact count that have 3 or less power. I had no hesitation on using this on turn 2 if the creature was threatening enough. I did several times on several renowned creatures. It's a really good pick.
I think it's
exactly what Black needs in this format because it seems to be a fairly fast and aggressive format, and it lets you knock a creature out and then get to your 3, 4, and 5 drops, which will hopefully hold the ground.
And I think another nice thing that Reeve's Soul does for you is, yes, it doesn't kill their bombs but it takes pressure off of your other removal.
So there's our win.
Sweet. So that you don't have to use your premium removal on something that's just killing, like a flyer that's just a clock.
Yep.
And then, so, like, the more removal you have, the more liberal you can be with all of your other pieces of removal. So having, as long as you have the catch-all removal, which you did in the destroy target non-zombie card,
yep.
you can be pretty liberal with your Reeve Souls.
Return Centaur is pretty mediocre to even, I would put like a 2-star card. But if you have some synergies, it's actually kind of cool. So the Cruel Revival, if you mill a zombie, if you trade this off, or it's itself is a zombie, and then milling dudes or milling creatures work really well with the Graveblade Marauder. So I actually have him in all my builds. You'll see. I'm going to talk about this card later because I think it's really interesting, and in my final build I actually think playing one of these was the correct play, and I'll talk about it later, but this is a really interesting card. When a creature dies, scry 1, and then for 5 mana you drain 2 from your opponent and gain 2, and you can only activate it if you have 4 more creatures in the graveyard, which was very frequent for me because of cards like Return Centaur and trading off creatures. So I want to talk about this in a little bit.
And one thing to note is that that's only in your graveyard. There's some cards in the set that say in everybody's graveyard. That one is one of them that says specifically in your graveyard.
Shambling Ghoul is a great 2-drop in black. It does exactly what you want. It gets in the way of lots of 2/2s.
I had 2 of those, and they were... Love it. There's a ton of 2 toughness creatures, and some of those are 3 and 4 drops, and so being able to trade your 2-drop for one of their 3 or 4 drops just feels really good.
That's right. It also is a zombie, so it works with Cruel Revival. Not playable in most decks, not even most elf decks, the Thornblade Archer. Undead Servant's a really interesting card, but it's probably more of a draft card than a sealed card because you're unlikely to open more than 2. If you have 2, it might be worth playing, but 4 mana for a 3/2 is just, I'm not sure. I only had 1, so I didn't have the option to play him more, so it didn't make the cut. And then my last black card is a straight removal spell, 5 mana, instant speed, destroy target creature, obviously made the cut. So, what black gave me was some good utility creatures, 1 really win condition in the Graveblade Marauder, and lots of removal. So I knew I definitely wanted to be in black. I think I will go through the builds and see how many black cards I have, but it's something like 12 or 13. I rule out red very fast. Pile Driver is expensive, but in price, dollar cost, but so it's nice to have one, but not playable and sealed. The Javelin is nice. The Mage Ring Bully I kind of like, but it wants an aggressive deck. My deck is definitely not aggressive. And then I've got 3 Titan Strengths and like 2 Prickle Bores and 3 of. I mean, this is just very high end. I need to be able to live. And red was just not going to do that for me. So red was easy to rule out. Let's go to my green. And actually, we'll do it this way because it looks a little better this way. Aerial Valley is a nice sideboard card against flying decks, not a main deckable card. Conclave Naturalists, randomly good. There are enough artifacts and equipment that I feel like it's definitely main deckable. The 5 for a 4/4 is not great, but it's serviceable body. The Duayen's Elite is a bear that can make a 1/1 if you have another elf. Certainly main deckable, even if you just have a few elves. This is a very specific card for specific decks, which if I was playing green, I would not have been able to. I just didn't have enough 3-power guys.
I think that one of the things you want to try and identify early in formats is thresholds, like what powers and toughness become good. I think 4 is a pretty serviceable. Like there's a lot. Like there's not all that many 4+, or there's not that many creatures with toughness more than 4.
Right.
So I think that the 4 for 5 might be a little bit better in this format than a typical
others.
format.
I would agree. Yeah. And it's if you know your opponent has enchantments or artifacts, it's very good. And even if they don't, it's probably okay. It could be a card you look to cut. Highclaw Recluse would be a card that if I played green would put me into a very defensive build. But it does block. It's a 1/4 reach, blocks. It can attack if you needed to. A fine filler card in a defensive deck. Nissa's Pilgrimage I like, but I was much heavier black, and this only goes and gets Forest. So if I was going to play green, it just didn't make sense to play it. So you'll see in my green build I don't have any in there. Rock Maulers is a very nice card, good finisher. If you can get it through once, it becomes a 6/6. Somberwald Alpha.
You don't even need to get it through. It has trample.
It has trample on its own, right? So you're right. You don't necessarily have to get it through. You just have to have it live the attack, survive the attack. Somberwald Alpha is an interesting card. Makes combat difficult on your opponents in that every time they block, your creature gets +1/+1. This applies to other creatures, so it's very difficult to remember on your opponent's behalf that when you block a Rock Maulers, it then becomes a 5/5 because of a different card.
Yeah,
and something can get trampled because of a different card. But
yeah,
this
I'm kind of
is a
surprised
nice
to see that in a core set.
It is.
Like, that seems a little bit complicated for a core set. But
Timberpack Wolf is a bear, which I think are very good in this format, so just having one is fine. Titanic Growth is a nice trick if you're looking to be aggressive. I think it's better in aggressive decks. This is a Fog, which I'm not even sure is playable because there's so many creatures with power 4 or less. I'm not sure what you're saving.
yeah.
And Yavis Force Mage, which is certainly just a fine playable card. Let's go back up to the top. We go to white and blue because those are the other two colors I thought were in consideration. Imprint Tactician is very good in an aggressive deck. You'll see in a minute that my white is kind of aggressive, but and this would have made the cut. You'll see in the white build I go through, but we'll talk about it when we get there. It's a nice card, very good in aggressive decks, less so in like a mid-rangey deck. Anointer of Champions, I love. Last time they printed this, it was at common. They've moved it to uncommon for a reason. Being able to attack with like a 2/2 on turn 3 and just pumping it for 3, and it just makes combat a nightmare. And you just reuse it over and over and over again. It's very good. Double Blessed Spirit, which even if you're not activating the enchantment ability, is just a 2/2 flyer for 3, which is fine. And look at these little kids. I mean, adorable, just adorable.
And like, if you activate that in half of your games, I think you're pretty happy.
Right. And if worst case, like, if you're an aggressive deck and you go, you get a couple turn 3 Blessed Spirit, turn 3 4 Blessed Spirit into like Tactician, and you attack for. I mean, it's okay if you're punching through damage in the air. Celestial Flare, which is a fine removal spell, but the double white cost is real if it's your second color, and I'll go through that in my build and talk about that a little bit. Another Bear, which is fine. I don't have any other ones to pump it and gain more life here, and the Cleric of the Forward Order, but it's fine. This is definitely a sideboard card, this Enlightened Ascetic. A 2 for a 1/1 is undercosted, so you really need to have a key enchantment to destroy. Helping Hands cycles, but I don't know if I would ever play this card. Heavy Infantry lets you pump, hopefully put through some damage by tapping down a creature on turn 5. It's a little bit underpowered for 5 at a 3/4, but if it was a 4/4, it might be a little better.
Even if it was a 4, it wouldn't be white if it was a 4/3,
yeah.
but
but it would be a card I would definitely consider in white-black in my deck. Kithian's Tactics is really a nice aggressive card, and you'll see in the build I put out, the double white cost was pretty tough, and I didn't have enough small creatures to really justify playing it. Relic Seeker is a pretty nice card. This is a bear with Renown 1, and you can search for equipment when it becomes Renowned. So I'll show you I have 2 equipment cards in the pool, which I'll show in a second. So this definitely would be a strong card in my pool with the ability to get 2 equipment. Suppression Bonds is great removal. I have 1 of those. I think it's one of the best commons probably in the set. Just could lock down an equipment if you need to, if they have a Planeswalker active, in the rare occasion that happens. Otherwise, it's generally going to get a creature and just essentially pacify it. And it shuts down activated abilities. Valor is probably not playable. If it is, it's a pretty rare niche corner case. And Yoke Docs, white really wants to be aggressive, so a 0/4 is really not what you want to be doing. The last deck, or color to go over is blue. Artificer's Epiphany is okay if you really have a lot of Thopters or artifact creatures. I do not, so it's not really a consideration for me. Getting 2 flyers with 1 power out of Aspiring Aeronaut is fine. It's okay, but it's not great. You get a 1/2 flyer and a 1/1 colorless Thopter. Really trying to get more artifacts in play and get those 1/1s going. So it's a fine playable, but not exciting. Bone to Ash is pretty hard to keep up mana for at 4 mana. You really need to be like ahead already, and the curve is the format's so aggressive that like not playing a 4-drop and trying to counter something, if they're ahead on board, they're just not going to play into it. So I don't know if this card's really playable, except unless you're in like a control mirror or something like that. Dreadwaters is a mill card. I have 1 other mill card in the format, so it's just not worth playing. I had 2 Fairy Miscreants, which are 1/1 flyers, but again, that spider, that green spider, just shuts. I mean, it's just. I think you need 4 or 5 of them plus some equipment to really, in draft to really go.
I think equipment would be the key there,
but not for me in sealed. Harbinger of Tides is fantastic. I love it. Double blue at 2 is a real cost. However, you're not always playing it on 2. A lot of times you're playing it on 4 or later, in which case this flash comes into play. So a very versatile card. Being able to bounce it in a very tempo-heavy format is really cool. So I think this is a pretty strong card in the format. Jace's Sanctum is not really playable unless you have a ton of instants and sorceries, which I don't think most decks are going to have a chance to do. Jesse and Thief is great. I love this card. I think anyone who loves blue loves this card.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
1/3, draw a card when it deals damage to an opponent. And by the way, it has prowess, so if they try to kill it with like a 3 power creature, you can just, potentially just kill it or whatever. It's just a fantastic card. So that would definitely be on my list of playables if I was playing it. Maritime Guard is a strictly defensive card against against very offensive decks, very aggressive decks. Negate is potentially main deckables against removal, spot removal, things like that. Scrapskin Drake is okay in an aggressive deck, not great in a defensive deck. The new Mana War is great. 2/2, 4 mana, bounces a creature when it enters the battlefield. So that would be on my list. Sphinx's Tutelage would function as a second another way to win the game in the blue deck I potentially built. Whenever you draw a card, your opponent mills the top 2 cards of their library, and if they share a color and are not lands, you repeat it. So if you can get like a 4-card mill once or twice, if you eventually draw, 10 cards, it's a long, grinding card. If you need a win condition, it's there. I had it available to me, and you'll see the blue build I have is very grindy, so I actually have it in the main. But I don't know if that's right. Whirler Rogue is actually much better than the Aerial list we saw
that
earlier.
card looks awesome.
2/2, that puts 2 1/1 flyers into play, and then you can tap 2 artifacts like those 2 1/1 flyers to make a creature unblockable, which is great.
And one thing is that they don't need haste to do that. So the turn you play it, the guy is a 2/2 that could say target. Like, there's so many modes for him. Like, it could be a 2/2 that says target creature is unblockable, or it could be I now have 3 extra blockers that I didn't have before.
Yep.
I
really like this.
I want to get that guy on the Jesse and Prowler.
Yep. I'm going to go to the bottom here where we have got our artifacts and lands. Reclusive Artificer, I'm not going to play red. I'm not going to splash for it. It's not good enough. So not playing that. Angel's Tomb is a card I like in probably a creature deck with 14 or 15 creatures. If you need a way to win, if either aggressive or even in a mid-range deck where you need a way to win the game. Makes a 3/3 flyer when a creature enters the play, which you can then attack with, which is, if you're pushing through damage, is great. Bonded Construct is probably only playable in the most aggressive decks. Brawler's Plate's a little too expensive against a lot of decks. You'll see a couple builds, and I think it's a worthy sideboard card against really grindy matchups where you both have a bunch of 3/3s on the board and it'll give you an edge. But I don't think it's main deckable most of the time because the format is pretty fast. I had 2 Evolving Wilds, which you'll see in some of the builds.
Interesting.
Foundry of the Consuls, which puts 2 flyers into play for 5 mana, so it kind of functions as a spell once you get enough mana, and you can make 2 artifacts. So I believe in my blue build I have this, but not any other ones, because it works well with some of the blue cards. So Foundry is a consideration. Rogue's Passage, which I'll talk about in a little bit, because I have this I think in 2 of my builds, and the build I ended up going with, this was a all-star. And I actually really like Veteran Sidearm in this format. I don't think it's like it's not something I'd go out of my way to pick, but if you see this 7th or 8th pick and your colors are dried up, like there's so many 2/2s and 3/3s and 2/3s and 3/2s that like giving your guys a +1/+1 is real.
Also that you can attack with it on a creature and then equip it up to a defender.
That's right.
Like
for 1 mana, the cost is worth it. So I played this. I have this in all my builds. It's good. So let's go through the builds in order and see where I ended up and kind of go through the pluses and minuses. So here is the blue deck I built out, and I'm going to do this again, sort by color, and then view, spoiler view. And hopefully, I don't know if this will break up into main deck and sideboard or not.
I think it does.
It does. Yeah. Look at that. Wow, this site's very good. Deckbox.com.
Yeah, it's a great site.
Free plug. Nice site. So the first thing you'll see is Suppression Bonds. I felt like I needed another playable in another color. This was the best splashable color. I have the double Evolving Wilds. So with 2 Evolving Wilds and 1 Plains, it's 3 white sources in the deck. I felt like the deck would have needed an extra removal spell. So I think Suppression Bonds makes the cut. You'll see here, these are the blue cards that I picked out to main deck. Kind of flying tempo-y type cards. Harbinger, bouncing a guy. Jezian Thief, hopefully getting in there once or twice to draw me a card. Scrapskin Drake. Any of these guys could be equipped with the Veteran Sidearm, which you saw below and is in this build as well. Another bounce creature here, a negate to take away. I have Sphinx's Tutelage, which I actually think is incorrect now.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
go and talk about the that Scry 1 black card in a second. Whirler Rogue, which again puts in some more flyers and stuff like that. Here's the black cards I talked about, so I'm not going to go into those. This is basically, you'll see this same black setup in all of my decks. And here's the mana base and the Veteran Sidearm. The one thing I'll say is I do think in this deck, and I think all of the decks, I'll talk about the Shadows of the Past card now. I think this is really good in the particular builds I have. You'll see in all of my decks and the potential builds I have that there's not a ton of win conditions. Like, basically, I'm in a grind them out game. I am trying to draw cards with Read the Bones. These are the two that are in the sideboard. I'm trying to play, value creatures like the 3/1 that makes them discard a card, trade that off, make them discard. I'm just trying to grind, eventually punch through some damage with some unblockables. In this particular build, I don't have the Rogue's Passage because I have the Whirler Rogue. So they have a similar ability of making something not be blocked. There's a lot of 1/1 flyers, so if I can get flyers through, I'm trying to punch through damage that way. But there's just not really a boom in this deck. There's just no top end. And that's really one of the problems I had and why I ultimately did not go with the blue deck.
I'm surprised to see Angel's Tomb in the sideboard on this build.
So I felt like I had enough flyers in this build, and that I had other ways to punch damage through. This build also has the fewest number of creatures in it, actually. So there's tokens, but there's actually, I think, only 13 creatures in this build, as opposed to the white and the green, which have 14 and 15, I believe. So I was worried about running out of activations for it when I needed to be attacking with it, whereas the other ones are a little
One
more
interesting
reliable.
thing is that the new Mana War can be a 4 mana. Turn that into a creature for the rest, like every turn.
Oh, bounce itself?
Bounce itself.
Yep, you could bounce it. Yep, so that's a good point. The other thing, and the reason I'm going to go... where did I go? This is the sideboard, and then...
Yeah, I think I would build this build quite differently.
Scratch pad. Interesting. Okay. The other thing, and the reason I really like this, is that with the Angel's Tomb, as stuff dies, you can scry into more creatures. And you'll see one of the reasons I like this card in some of my other builds that I should have gone with is for that exact reason. Like, if you need this to be active and stuff's dying, like your scry, you can just say land, nope. And if you draw a spell, like a removal spell, you go, oh, I'll keep the removal spell because that'll take out another threat anyways. The other problem with the blue deck and the reason I went away from it is I was a little worried about the mana. My black is pretty stable, but there's with the white, and then I've got like some double blues. I get real leery about that when I'm playing what I consider a questionable build, because I'm already playing something I'm less comfortable with, and then if I have 2 swamps, I have to go get the plains because I have the suppression bonds in hands in 1 island, and I never draw that second island. It's frustrating to not be able to play something like a Harbinger or the Whirler Rogue because you just couldn't get all the mana you needed. So that was another reason I ruled out the blue. So if you were looking at this blue build, Brian, you said you might have built it a little differently. Yeah. What else would you look at?
I think I would look at the Maritime Guards.
Yep, and these were in the sideboard, and I actually considered them for the main. But I just felt like they would just, there are enough 3/2s and stuff like that eventually they would just get outclassed, and I wouldn't even trade them off. I would just chump,
Yeah, I kind of like the Maritime Guards for double block potential. Okay. Like, you just pair them alongside somebody else, and you lose to something else, but you still...
and they were definitely in consideration for side. If I was very aggressive and needed to really get them in there.
I certainly wouldn't have gone with the blue build, but if I did go with the blue build, I think the Maritime Guards come in.
You also go ahead.
And I wanted to see what else there was here. I don't know if I like the mill card over the black card, which it sounds like you came to that. Yep. Yeah, so I think the Maritime Guards and Angel's Tomb come in for me there. I don't know what comes out.
One other interesting thing you'll see in all of my builds is that this Dark Petition is not in any of them. I think it can be a really strong card I have the removal package, I think, which is good for it, but I lack a bomb or 2 to go get.
Yeah.
So, and if I don't think, so it's like, if you already have your bomb, you can go get a removal with it, right? If you already have some removal, you can go get your bomb with it. But without I was missing one
Mm-hmm.
half of that coin, and so like spending turn 5 to go get removal that you get on that you play on turn 6 is just not.
Yep.
It's not great.
I
So
think
it was not in any of my.
I think in
builds.
your specific deck, I would rather play another Read the Bones than that tutor.
I completely agree. I'd rather just have cards.
Yeah, because you only have so many turns that you can completely take off of playing Magic.
That's
and,
right.
And you need the reward just isn't there.
That's
so
right.
yeah, I think that was a good disciplined pick for you.
And I think I looked at it and I said, boy, I really want to play this card, and I just looked at the builds and I was just like, I'm not getting anything good with this. Really.
Yep.
So.
I think that was a good call.
All right, so let's go to the green build. Again, we'll sort by color and view the spoiler. So, if I remember correctly, here's the black. Again, same across the board. What you'll see with the green is that I have the Angel's Tomb in because I had no green spells. I go straight creatures with the green. I have a 2-drop. I have a 2-drop, so I have 2 2/2s, which are good trade-offs. The Yavis Force Mage can potentially make them price them into trading something off if I can pump a wolf or whatever. Not the greatest 3-drop in this deck, but it's fine.
No,
and it would give me some top end, which blue did not. So blue would have tried to go wide with like Thopters and tempo, and green was just like I'm getting to 5, and I'm going to drop a Mauler, I'm going to drop a Naturalist. Or this alpha to potentially make blocks really hard, or make them block or double block, and then use a Unholy Hunger or Cool Revival or something like that. The other thing I did, the other thing you'll see about the green pool is that all single green costs.
Yeah, that.
So I had no problem, no double blue, no double white, no double. It's all I need is 1 green mana to function. Rogue's Passage also I mentioned. Obviously, I didn't play blue, so I either played white or green. The build I played in, Rogue's Passage, was phenomenal. Won me 2 or 3 games on its own, and put so much pressure on the opponent, knowing that every turn I'm going to have a creature that they can get through. So even in a stalled board, the Rogue's Passage was great. Played Veteran Sidearm up front. Again, was very good.
No white splash in this build.
No white splash in this build. I did not go with the suppression bonds. I wanted more creatures, more grind. And I actually don't even run either Evolving Wilds in this build. So because everything I need 1 black, I need 1 green to function.
Yeah, I think that
I have double Read the Bones main.
Yep.
So I felt like I had it. All I needed to do is get to them.
Yep.
One change I would make about this build after doing the review, and this is when I'd be interested to talk to you about, Brian. So I probably can show the curve has like 7 2-drops. I looked at these this morning for all the different curves, for all the different builds. This particular deck had 7 2-drops and 10 3-drops.
Wow, yeah.
And I actually thought Read the Bones at 3 was a bit of a liability because I want to be playing stuff out, and I'd rather have a first copy of Shadows of the Past and 1 Read the Bones at 3, because I felt like if I was digging for stuff, I'm going to be trading stuff off, using removal, and this functioned in a long game on 2, very similar to Read the Bones, and gave me a win condition by draining 2 each turn.
Yeah, I don't know, because I do like the Read the Bones because if you're playing 2 and 3 drops, sometimes you just need to regas.
Yep, and the Read the Bones were great. But I felt like with this build and the white build that the Shadows might be better on 2 over the second copy of Read the Bones. I don't know for sure. It's also possible the Shadows would. I felt like it also feel like it'd be better with like Angel's Tomb to just keep digging as stuff died. And there's a lot of stuff dying in this format. If you haven't played it yet, like you're basically just swinging into things, trading guys off until somebody has enough creatures to kind of punch through. At least that's how my game's played out.
I don't know how I feel about the Return Centaur in this build. I don't know what I put in over it, but
so it's funny. Obviously, I played black and either white or green, but it was actually pretty good. I always milled myself. When the one time I didn't, I regretted it because of this guy.
Sure.
And the Cruel Revival. Like I hit my opponent, and I actually hit that stupid black card that you can get back from your graveyard for him. So immediately punished because he just paid 2 black to get the creature out of his graveyard and back into play. But also, like, it combos so well with the Marauder, and it can potentially put a zombie in for Cruel Revival.
2/4 for 4 is just such
a... I understand.
I see
not
that,
something I'm excited to
I know
its
text isn't blank, but I don't know.
It worked out.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so that's the green black build, and then let's go to the white build. Tool, and then go to color.
I think tools is where they'd have the statistics you're looking for.
It does. So the other nice thing about this site is you can click on statistics here. It'll show you your mana curve. It'll do some sample hand generators. Very useful. So this would be the white I went with, which you can kind of see the one drop. These guys fly. Here's the Relic Seeker. Here's a Cleric, so a couple 2/2s similar to green. Suppression bonds for an extra piece of removal. The infantry I play one of at 5 to tap something down and potentially get through. The Tactician, which again I think is better in an aggressive deck. I'm not sure how it would fit in this sort of mid-rangey deck because I'm not really trying to go for like a big attack. Like,
right.
It's not really doing much other than it's being a hill giant and maybe I get a little bit of damage through. Play the Angel's Tomb. I put in Brawler's Plate in addition to the Veteran Sidearm because of the Relic Seeker. It gives me a second target for it in case one of them is in my hand. And I felt like that was useful. Play the Rogue's Passage as well to push through some damage. I play one Evolving Wilds because white has a little bit more mana, is a little more mana hungry with the Tactician. I believe is the only double white spell. And I opted not to put in the Celestial Flare. I felt like it was just too risky to run. I have enough removal. I have 5 pieces of removal with the suppression bonds. So I didn't feel like the double white was worth it. It just could really cripple me if I needed to kill something and I didn't have the double white. Also didn't think the Kithian's Tactics would be worth it. Because my creatures, again, pretty small. The double whites, again, very real cost. And I just didn't. I wasn't aggressive enough. I wasn't trying to push through the final 8 damage. I don't have enough. It's just a grindy build. So this would have been. I don't know if you see anything in white. I think my whites. You could have put in maybe a second heavy infantry.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't like this white. Like the white, I just don't think there's enough there.
And I don't think the Foundry. I don't think doing it. I think the Rogue's Passage in this build is better than the double.
I don't know how I feel about the equipment, the extra equipment. So that if you, for the Renowned guy.
Yep.
Just because the Renowned guy is good enough, even if he misses his equipment trigger.
Sure, he becomes.
And so I think playing a not. I think the blue deck would be the deck that most wants that equipment.
Okay.
And so I think that playing a pretty subpar card just to take a card from good to very good in the situation where you haven't already drawn your equipment. I think that seems like a little bit of a it might be a little bit too cute.
It might be. I wasn't sure about it, but I'm not sure what else I would have played over it. And I felt like just getting the value, even having a long game with the Brawler's Plate, like getting it for free and then knowing I can play it when I have nothing else to do.
Your white has some good stuff, but I think it's just too shallow to.
Yep, and that's the conclusion I came to. So I ended up running the green. So we can go right to the sort of the final build here. I ended up running the green, and let me just go to the statistics here. Again, I had one double black spell, and everything else was single colored. That was a big draw for me because I had removal, but I lacked really raw power and win conditions.
Look at this guy's curve.
So, here's my mana curve down here. I have 7 2-drops. I have 10 3-drops, 2 4s, and 4 5s. So I can play things on curve. When I run out of things to play, I had double Read the Bones in this build. I had Rogue's Passage to pump through damage, and I had a lot of key kind of spot removal to deal with things. I'm going to go through a couple of specific cards that really, really helped me out. Rock's Maulers, despite being good, died almost instantaneously every game, so I never even got. I don't know if I actually attacked with it.
Wow.
It just was like, yep, I'm not letting that live. Go back to set here and go to the spoiler view. So I really focused on curve and being able to play all my spells, and I really felt like that was the key difference. I played pretty well, and hitting things on curve, I punished anyone who kept 2 land hands and missed their third. Like, as soon as they fell behind, they just could not catch up. I myself mulliganed 3 times, so I went 4-0, and I went 8-0 in games, so I did not lose a game. I mulliganed 3 of those 8, so it's not like I had perfect draws each time. But I punished my opponents when they missed land drops because I was just hitting a 2-drop, a 3-drop, sometimes 2/2 on 4, or just an extra 3-drop, or into like a 3-drop and a veteran sidearm on 5. I was just constantly kicking out new threats, and my opponents were stalling out because they might have missed mana, they might have missed a land drop. And then I want to highlight a couple cards here. Go ahead.
And I think that is like the thing I love about this build is that it has like there's not very many bad combinations of cards.
Right.
Like you have cards that like the Deathbridge Shaman that are pretty much good. You know, they're pretty good no matter when you play them. Like, they're great on 3 if your opponent doesn't have a blocker, and if they still have a card in their hand when it dies, so much gravy.
Yep. And I'll talk about, this is one of the cards I'll talk about. I mentioned it earlier. Like, this always was trading for, like, a 2/2, a 2/3, a 4/3, and making them discard even a land, like, putting them down to, like, 3 cards in hand, then they play a card post-combat, and they get so low on cards so quick with this guy. Really great card. There's Thopters, and there's Dragon Fodders, but that's like the only like cheap creatures that you would be kind of like, oh, you wouldn't feel good about trading him.
And then it just defends.
And then it just defends, right? And you can just take the 1 while they hold back their big guys because they don't want to attack into it. It's just a very well designed card for this set. The Cruel Revival was very good for me, and I'll tell you the card that worked really well with it was the Fleshbag Marauder. I would Marauder on 3. So I had one game where I Reeve Soul on 2, killing his creature. He played a 3-drop. I Maraudered on this guy on 3, killing that guy and my Marauder. Turn 4, they played something, and I played like one of my spiders, my 1/4 spiders that they couldn't attack through. And turn 5, they played like a big creature, and I would Cruel Revival, get back Marauder, make them sack something next turn. It was just incremental value the whole time. I Fleshbang Maraudered something that was Suppression Bond, so that like I threw away something I didn't need anymore. Like it was. I boarded Marauder out a couple times against a guy who had 2 Dragon Fodders and another guy who had multiple cards that made Thopters, knowing that they could just toss a Thopter. So being aware of when to board him out is a good thing. But if you're just like sometimes just sacking him on, playing him on 3 with no board on your side and killing their guy is a fine play in this format.
I had that one of the Cruel Revivals as well, and the card that it was really good for me with was Nantuku Husk.
Oh yeah,
because
I would love to have a Nantuku
they
Husk.
had to It's a 2/2 for 3 that you can sacrifice a creature to give it +2/+2. So what I could do with it was I could swing with it, and then it just put them in a position where there was nothing. Like I had a lot of control over where the game was going. I could sack another dude, and so like there would be I would attack with it, and I'd have one other creature. I'd sack the other creature, and then trade for a 4/4 with an Nantuku Husk, kill their next play, and then replay the Husk. And it was just
so much value. Graveblade Marauder was very good. People, I think, overreacted to it when they saw it, and they were trading like 4/4s for it. Like when I knew this wasn't going to be my win condition, I would just attack with it and they'd throw away a 4/4 for it or whatever.
Nice.
When I had a bunch of other spiders on the board, I had no way of dealing with the 4/4 other than the Marauder, and they would just be like, I don't want that thing on the board. And the one game I won with it, I had 7 creatures in the graveyard and Rogue's Passage out. So
I
take one. And
I think that card is going to be undervalued.
It's very good. It's with awesome. I realized the Rogue's Passage is a bit fringe, but it was like. I have 7 creatures in my graveyard. Take 1 and then 7. So and they can't attack into it because unless they have a trick, like they're gonna lose. There's so many small creatures in the format that don't kill it that they just
they're either gonna have to 2-for-1 themselves or lose something good.
Yep. Talked about Reeve Soul. Unholy Hunger is fine. The Naturalist is fine. The other card I want to talk about, Rogue's Passage. I mentioned won 2 or 3 games on its own. It was fantastic in this deck. Very good. The other card I'm going to talk about for just a brief period of time is Somberwald Alpha. This card is I actually don't like that they printed it. I was mentioned before that the fact that you can attack. I attacked one. So my opponent in round 4 had both Liliana and Nissa. He had just flipped his Nissa and made the 4/4 elemental. So his Nissa had 1 counter on it. And I had the Graveblade Marauder in play. And so I needed to kill the Nissa, and he had 3 or 4 creatures in play. So I attacked with the Marauder, because I knew he either had a double block, because if he blocked it with one creature, it would get +1/+1, and I could give it trample, and trample 1 over to Nissa.
I think you might have scumbagged the guy.
What?
Because if it gets double blocked, it's still...
No.
Okay.
I didn't
okay.
No. So
Okay.
let me explain the whole situation.
Yeah.
No, I did not scumbag him.
Okay.
So I attacked with a 1/4. He had the 2/3 Death Touch Centaur. But I was attacking Nissa. So his choices were to single block the creature, which is a terrible choice because then the Marauder gets +1/+1.
Yep.
And I give it trample, so I deal 1 and then 1 to Nissa and kill
Yep.
it. Or he double blocks, which I can't trample over them, but he still becomes a 2/2 and I get a 2-for-1 with it. Right? Because he's a 2/2 Death Toucher, I assign 1 to each creature.
Well, he's a
2/5.
2/5, yeah.
2/5.
Yep, yeah.
No, I didn't give him +1/+1 and then
Okay, yeah.
+1/+1.
Yeah.
So he only single blocked because, again, so it's really hard to see this on the board. The Somberwald Alpha's 3 creatures over. I'm attacking, far over here on the left. It wasn't intentional. It's just how the creatures came out. And, you just don't account for it. You get this you get this from another creature. The trample ability comes from it. So you can look at the creature and just not see it. It's not an enchantment on it that's attached to it. That's attached right to the card. It's not an equipment that's attached to it. It's just sort of this thing that exists that you have to constantly be aware of, and it's just so easy to miss. But I ended up, so I got the Nissa off the board, which really changed the game.
What I wish they would have
because he started drawing lands after. He basically would have drawn through all of his lands if he was +1ing Nissa, and he drew like 4 lands in a row, and I do gas, and I ended up beating him. So
I wish what they would have done was taken a mana cost off of it and made it a rare.
Maybe. It's just it's so innocuous to just kind of be sitting on the board, and as the attacker, like it's good.
Well, I think it's also they have that. I mean, I'm surprised that they've tried to make board states less complicated, and they printed that, and they also printed the guy that gives an attacking creature +1/+1. Like that's another hard. Yeah, I mean, I love those kind of cards, but I understand why they've tried to cut down on them.
So this guy was really, really good. As more people play this set, you won't get as many free sort of cheap things out of him, but it's a card you should be aware of. That's very good in the set. Just one block getting +1/+1, like again, turning a 2/2 into a 3/3, a 2/3 into a 3/4, like all these +1s really add up in the combats. The Highclaw Recluse was very good. Very few people could attack through it. There's not a lot of big flyers in this set. It really just shuts down the board. So like I was just going into grind mode with my deck. I won one game by playing Rogue's Passage and just attacking with Deadbridge Shaman 4 times in a row to do the final 12 points of damage, like just 3 points unblockable because the board state was just locked up. No one could attack through anything. But overall, so in conclusion, I kind of wanted to show this deck because, one, I think Sealed Deck gets a somewhat undeserved rap of saying, like, well, if you open a good pool, you're going to do well. If you open a bad pool, you're going to do bad. I think there are absolutely cases that is true. But I think most builds fall in the middle, and the choices you make, like only playing a single, finding a build that has good mana, and finding how can your pool win, and I think I did that with this deck. Again, you can look at beyond the removal there, and maybe the Graveblade Marauder, and maybe the Alpha, these are pretty mediocre creatures.
I think
they're all
is very good.
2 to 3.5 stars, But there's nothing where you just go, I'm going to play this card and I'm going to win. It's a good solid build. Hit things. I focused on curve and mana, and the deck played out exactly like I wanted it to. I didn't get perfect draws. Like I said, I mulliganed 3 times. I punished people who were a little too greedy, which absolutely is something that you can design for. You people are going to keep 2 landers and not get there, and if you can have it could happen to you too. But most of my games that I kept 2 landers, I had 2 or 3 turns to draw my land. I played a 2-drop, a 3-drop. A couple games I got stuck on 3 mana, and I had a Read the Bones to draw into another. I could just scry non-lands to the bottom and draw into more lands, so I could play my spells. The double Read the Bones really helped. The Angel's Tomb I'll also mention too. It's a 15 creature build, and I'm not sure if it's right in this build, but it ended up playing out really well for me. Between the Read the Bones to scry into more creatures, I was attacking with this pretty often, and the 3 damage was relevant. And there's not. I had one game where my opponent had the 1/4 Spider out. I mentioned there's not a lot that can attack through it. I had the Angel's Tomb. I would play a creature, move veteran sidearm over to it, attack as a 4/4, and then move the sidearm back to a defensive creature. It worked out really well. Again, somewhat lucky, but that's one of the reasons I like the sidearm as a really cheap equipment, and it can get that extra 1 point of power or toughness can make a big difference.
Yeah.
So that was the build. I went 4-0, like I said, and again, lesson learned is don't. Yeah, I was pretty down. I thought I was going to go 2-2, and I went 4-4. And so the lesson learned is play it out, build the best deck you can, and when in doubt, the power of curve and good mana is nothing to be scoffed at. Even if you don't have a Nissa and a Liliana in your build. So. Brian, do you have any thoughts either on mine or any other comments?
No, I think I'm ready to wrap this up. I think this was a good discussion, but okay.
It took a while, but I felt like it was worth going through.
Yeah.
Like it'd be really easy to just be like, here's my pool and here's what I built. But I felt like, again, putting more different content out there for you guys to see. And if you guys don't like this, let us know. Say, hey, this was really long-winded and I didn't really enjoy it. If you learned something, if you give us feedback, let us know what you liked and what you didn't like. Hopefully you enjoy the cube video this week. Hopefully you enjoy this. If there's anything else you want to see, let us know. Follow us on YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, all under Charging Badgers. Should be able to find us pretty easily on all three. Same email address at Gmail if you want to contact us that way. So with that said, I'll wrap up. Any closing comments?
I feel like if you didn't like the cube video, you should find a different channel, and that's fine, but that's what I'm going to be trying to do every single game. So if you don't like watching people do that...
Yeah, that is what Brian's going to be trying to do. Next week, we could very well end up in the same
I'll try not to.
Build. Well, we like to vary it up, but if we get back turn 2 upheaval and if we get a pick 2 upheaval and a pick 3 opposition, we're probably going the same route again. So with that said, I'm Ryan signing off for the night. Hope you guys have a good week.
And I'm Brian.
And we'll see you next. I guess we should talk about that real quick. Brian's out of town next week. I am going to try to do something. Follow us on Twitter, and I'll let you guys know what we're doing if you're interested in watching us next week. Or subscribe on Twitch, and you'll get an email if we go live.